Hey, welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing the unbelievable story of Emily, the girl who married a complete stranger in Vegas, and the shocking reason why she said, "I do." I walked into that tiny Vegas chapel, heart racing, palms sweating, about to marry a man whose last name I barely knew. Sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you I didn't do it for love, or even romance? What if I told you I did it to survive? This is the true story of how one night in Vegas changed everything, and why saying "I do" to a stranger might have saved my life. I still remember the way the neon lights bled into the white of my dress. It wasn't even really white. More like champagne, with a shimmer that looked expensive but wasn't. The chapel smelled faintly of roses, but also cigarettes. The stale kind that had been trapped in the carpet for years. My heels clicked against the tacky patterned floor, and with each step my pulse was pounding so hard, I thought it might actually be visible through my skin. I was walking toward a stranger, a man whose last name I barely knew, and in less than 10 minutes I was going to marry him. I can hear you thinking it. God, she's lost her mind. And maybe I had. But here's the thing about decisions like that. They don't happen all at once. They happen in pieces. A dozen tiny moments, each one feeling harmless, until you realize you've been building a trap you're about to step into willingly. I didn't come to Vegas to get married. I came to forget. I came to disappear for 48 hours and drown in the noise, the flashing lights, the clinking slot machines, anything loud enough to keep me from hearing the echo of his voice in my head. His voice. Not the man I was marrying, the man I was running from. But when I landed at McCarran that night, suitcase dragging behind me, I had no plan. I just knew I needed to be somewhere I could blend into the chaos, somewhere nobody asked questions, somewhere you could be anyone you wanted, or no one at all. And then, I met Jake. It wasn't supposed to happen. I'd slipped into a bar at the edge of Fremont Street, not one of those tourist traps, but a place with low ceilings and a single flickering light over the pool table. He was there, leaning against the counter, nursing a drink like it was a secret. Our eyes met once. I looked away, but then I looked back, and when I did, he smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile you expect from a stranger. Not flirtatious, not forced. It was knowing, like he recognized something in me. Like he already knew my story. I told myself I wouldn't talk to him, but when he sent the bartender over with a whiskey I hadn't ordered, I didn't send it back. Therefore, when he slid onto the stool next to me, I didn't move away. We talked. Not about anything important. Or maybe it was all important. I told him I was just visiting. He didn't ask why. He told me he was in town for business. I didn't ask what kind. We stayed in that bar until they turned the lights up and kicked us out. You have to understand, it wasn't about love. It wasn't even about attraction at first. It was about safety. Not the kind you can measure in locks or alarms, but the kind you feel in your bones when someone's presence makes the air around you softer. The next day, we ran into each other again. I swear I didn't plan it. Vegas is big enough that you can lose someone in it easily. But there he was, standing at a blackjack table like he owned it. He caught my eye, smiled again. And just like that, I was standing beside him. But here's where it got strange. He didn't ask for my number. Therefore, I told myself it didn't mean anything. But that night, when I found him at another bar, he said something that stopped me cold. He leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. "I know why you're here." It was like someone pressed pause on the noise of the casino. The machines still chimed, the dealers still called out bets, people still laughed, but in my head there was just a long, cold silence. I tried to play it cool. "Yeah?" I said, my lips curling into the smallest smirk I could manage. "Enlighten me." Jake's eyes didn't move. They stayed locked on mine like he was studying something. Not my face exactly, but something behind it. And then he said, "You're running from someone, and you don't want them to find you." I swear my skin prickled from head to toe. Nobody knew. I hadn't told a soul. Not my friends, not my family, not even the driver who took me to the airport. How could you possibly? I started, but he held up his hand, just barely, the way you do when you're calming a skittish animal. "Doesn't matter how I know," he said. "Just matters that you're not wrong to be scared." That was the first time the little voice inside me, the one that had been whispering danger since I met him, got louder. But something in the way he said it, the way he didn't press for details, made me feel like maybe I could breathe again. Therefore, instead of walking away, I stayed. We moved to a quieter table in the corner, where the noise of the casino softened into a hum. Jake didn't ask questions I didn't want to answer. He just talked. Told me about his childhood in upstate New York, about the fishing trips he used to take with his dad, about the year he lived in Spain and learned enough Spanish to order more food than he could eat. I didn't believe all of it, maybe none of it, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that for the first time in weeks, my shoulders weren't locked up around my ears. That night, we walked down Fremont Street, the lights bouncing off his jacket, his hands in his pockets. He wasn't trying to impress me, wasn't trying to sell me some fantasy of who he was. He was just there. And in that moment, that was enough. But you know how it is when you meet someone who feels like they've been dropped into your life for a reason? Therefore, when he suggested we grab a late-night breakfast, I didn't say no. We ended up in one of those 24-hour diners with sticky menus and waitresses who call you hon. He ordered black coffee and pancakes. I ordered tea and a slice of pie I didn't finish. At some point, he reached across the table and took my hand. Not like a move, not like he was trying to make something happen, just like he wanted me to know he was there. And here's where I tell you something I haven't told anyone else. I slept that night for the first time in months. No nightmares, no jolting awake with my heart in my throat, just quiet. The next day he called. I didn't give him my number, but he called. That should have scared me. But instead it felt like proof that maybe the universe wasn't just letting me drift. Therefore I answered. He wanted to take me somewhere off the strip. When I hesitated, he said, "If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it already. It should have been a red flag. Hell, it should have been a giant blaring siren." But I went. We drove out past the city limits, the lights of Vegas shrinking behind us. The desert at night is a strange thing. It's empty, but it feels like it's watching you. We stopped at this old, abandoned drive-in theater. The screen was cracked and peeling. The concession stand boarded up. He pulled a blanket from the back seat, spread it out on the hood of his car, and we sat there under the stars. He didn't try to kiss me, didn't even touch me. We just talked again, about music, about the places we wanted to see before we died, about the things we regretted. When he dropped me back at my hotel, he said something I'll never forget. "You're safe when you're with me. Don't forget that." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But safety is a tricky thing. It's addictive. Therefore, when he called the next day and suggested something insane, I didn't laugh. "Let's get married." I actually thought he was joking at first, but he just sat there looking at me like he'd just suggested something as ordinary as getting lunch. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just leaned back, studying me again. "Because it'll make you untouchable," he finally said. "That person you're running from, they won't be able to come near you." I stared at him. The air between us felt charged, heavy. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run, but my mind was already spinning through possibilities. Therefore, instead of saying no, I said when. I looked at him like he'd just suggested jumping off the stratosphere without a parachute. "Tonight?" "Yes," he said, calm, steady, like we were talking about picking a movie to watch. "No planning?" "No." "Ring?" He tilted his head, that half smile on his lips. "I'll get one." I should have laughed. I should have walked out. But my mind was a tangled mess of fear, relief, and something I couldn't quite name, because what he said about being untouchable, it stuck. If I was someone's wife, legally, maybe the man I was running from would think twice. Maybe he'd leave me alone. But I didn't trust Jake fully. Therefore, before I answered, I asked, "What's in this for you?" He didn't hesitate. "You don't need to know that right now. Just trust me." That should have been another red flag. It was a whole parade of red flags by now. But when someone makes you feel safe after months of living in a nightmare, you cling to it, even if it's dangerous. We left the cafe and walked into the night air. The Vegas streets buzzed, music from one bar bleeding into the next, the smell of grilled food, the glitter of neon signs painting everyone's skin in strange colors. Jake's hand brushed mine, not holding, not pulling, just enough to say I'm here. We stopped at a small pawn shop 2 blocks over. The guy behind the counter didn't even blink when Jake said, "We need a ring." It took 10 minutes. The ring wasn't anything special, silver, a tiny stone, but Jake slid it into his pocket like it meant something. Thanks for watching until the end. This was only the beginning of a story that's about to get even darker. I'll continue in the next part, so make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos.